We're celebrating the freedom of independent book publishing today on the podcast, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fantasy.
Look at our fireworks celebration. Thanks for making that so cute and fun for us, Jeff. I love it. It's so fun.
Totally worth being a couple minutes late to the podcast just so I could do that.
Well, for those of you who may not know, the United States celebrates their independence on July 4th, and that was yesterday for anybody listening into the future, time traveling to listen back to us talking on July 5th. 2024. And so we are sort of theming our episode around independence, just so you know where all of that comes from. And we start every episode with our What's Up, where we go around the virtual table to ask each of the hosts, what's up with you? Now, I have a long-standing tradition of picking on Jen to go first. So what's up with you, Jen?
I don't know. I feel like I had like 30 things last week for What's Up. And this week I'm like, I don't even know. It's all the same. Getting my daughter ready to go off to college. Celebrated the 4th this week with my family. I just been struggling. I was sick a few weeks back, and I'm just struggling to get my energy back. So if everybody would be praying for me, I'd really appreciate it, because brain fog is a real deal for me right now. So we'll see how this episode goes, because we know what it's like when we do like a late night episode, how giggly I get. So I don't know if that's going to translate over.
Oh, that could be fun.
It could be for you guys.
We like sleep deprived. Oh man.
So we'll see. So what about you, Jamie? What's up with you?
Same. I liked yesterday off. I do have a 9-to-5er, and the 9-to-5er gave us yesterday off. Oh, it was so nice to randomly in the middle of a week have the day off, and you get that Friday feeling twice, because now it's Friday again. So hooray. I am on my lunch break from my 9-to-5 to do this podcast. So it's a really good feeling to be like, happy Friday, after feeling just like happy Friday. Went out to Daytona to watch the sunrise. It turns out that's one of my favorite things to do ever. And it's so funny because it's quite a drive for me to get there, and I have to get up super early. But then when I get there to watch that sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean, I'm always like, this is free. How can this glorious display of majesty and beauty be free? And then I remember the price is getting up at 4 a.m. The price is the drive,
Right.
So it kind of makes it seem like, oh, it's not too good to be true, that it's free to just go out there and stand and watch the sunrise. And I thought I was going to be disappointed because it was cloudy, which Florida does not get gray cloudy very often like Michigan does, but it gets literally big, giant clouds. And so I thought, oh, it's not going to be as impactful, because the first time I ever saw it, there were no clouds, and it was like a giant egg yolk coming up out of the ocean. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get to see my big golden egg yolk. But instead, there was a vaguely Michigan-shaped cloud. Not really Michigan shaped, but it did kind of look like a mitten a little bit. And the sun came up right behind it, and it just like illuminated it from the back. And it was just breathtaking and spectacular. And the whole sky was like purple. Oh, just love it. I did not have the gumption to drive across the state to see the sunset, which is something that I like to do when I go to watch the sunrise. Which is so funny because I have a friend who's just been itching to get back down here, and she's like, I will drive us to see the sunset, and you can drive us to see the sunrise, because she would prioritize the sunset. Do you ladies like a sunset better or a sunrise better?
Even though I'm a morning person, a sunset.
I'm not a morning person, so sunset.
Shell says she calls those Jesus rays. Yes, for sure. Shell, I'd like to know, do you like a sunrise or a sunset? Now, you're on the West Coast, so I would imagine sunset. Anybody else care to share too? Or go to our Facebook group and let us know if you prefer to see a sunrise or a sunset. Or if you just like to sing the song from Fiddler on the Roof and enjoy both. Cali girl, so our sunsets here are fire.
Yeah.
I think that Michigan and Florida, we're like unique in the situation that we can catch both sunrises and sunsets. You know, like I went to college on the East Coast, and sunrises were what you could get. Sunsets, it was very rare that you'd be able to find something open enough to be able to see the sunset. So
So that was my fourth. What about you, Christina Catane?
Well, my daughter and my two granddaughters and I went out to our glamper on the glamp ground. And I say it that way because I grew up in Alaska and I don't really consider it camping. But we went out there and the girls had a great time. We went in the lake, and Athena there's like a floating dock, and she wears a life jacket because she's not a great swimmer, and she swims out to the dock, and I have to go with her. That's the rule. That's my rule. I don't know what anyone else's rules are, but she's not allowed to go out past the rope unless I'm with her. And I tread water for like 2 hours, and she swims up onto the floating dock, and so I say 3, 2, 1, and she jumps, and then I have to rate her like a Olympic rating scale from 1 to 10.
I love
Every
that.
single jump, and then she swims to the ladder and does it again and again for like 2 hours. And I get great exercise treading in water for 2 hours.
I know you
Luckily,
love
I was
being
a
in the
lifeguard at
lake.
one point, and I know how to tread. I think part of the test you had to tread water for like 20 minutes. So treading water's a breeze for me, and I don't know, the girls just had a great time, and there was a little girl across the street that was Athena's age, so she kept running over there to play with the little girl, and little Ellie, who's 19 months, would stand looking forlornly like, why can't I go across the street? So we'd have to I'd take her on a golf cart ride to she loves to go on the golf cart ride, and when we're not on golf cart rides, she climbs onto the golf cart and sits in the driver's seat and steers the steering wheel. And then she decided that it needed to be washed, so she dumped an entire bottle of water on the floor where you put your feet and made mud, and then she sat in the mud. So since she needed a bath, so it was just like just the little memories that you make, just spending time with family, and it was just a wonderful time. They're still here. They're out there watching Curious George, the movie.
I love that
love
movie. I like
that.
the music.
Even as you're saying that, Tina, it's just like it is memories that you're always gonna have, because as you're saying that, I'm remembering like when we would go camping, and Phoebe was the one that was little, and would be her like little we had a pop-up bed kind of a thing for her, and she would be like in there holding on to the crib side and looking out the window and watching all the kids, and she'd bounce up and down, and
and it's just so amazing how a year seems like a long time, but in 1 year your granddaughter will be that much bigger and that much older, and before you know it, she will be able to run around and play with those kids, and it's just so fast. But it seems the days are long and the years are short, right?
Yes.
And I always started the nights are long, but the days are short. Eliana did not sleep well at the camper, so that's why we came home at bedtime last night, so we could put her to bed here where she will actually sleep. And my daughter was really tired because trying to share an air mattress with her 19-month-old didn't work out that well for her. And but Ellie's at that age where like she says new words every day. And it's just a lot of fun. She said apple this morning. She wanted an apple, and she said apple, and we were like, oh, she said apple. She went in the bathroom. I probably shouldn't say this online in the air, but she went in the bathroom where her mother was using the bathroom, and she said, go poop. So Amber had to come out. Eliana just said, go poop.
I mean,
so
it's cute when they say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving right along. We would love to hear about how you celebrated in our Facebook group. And we appreciate you, Shell, and Purpose Behind the Pen for joining us this morning.
Mhm.
If you care to share how you celebrated your fourth, we'd love to hear that too. But we're going to move
Purpose
on.
Behind
Oh,
the
yeah.
Pen says that she finally made it to the final draft of book 16. Good for you.
Yay, for
Yeah.
sure. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So the what's up is over. Now we're going to dive into our topic du jour, which, as I alluded to earlier, has to do with Independence Day. And we are celebrating our status as independent authors. And we are going to talk about the freedom of being an independent author in publishing by yourself. Is that what
Yes.
we mean by indie publishing?
Yeah, indie publishing, it's often also called self-publishing. Um,
Mm.
the we like the term indie better because sometimes self-publishing can be kind of attributed to more
Vanity
like
press?
no, I would say more like back in the day when you were self-published, you would buy your books like thousands of books up in advance, and then we'd go around selling it, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a whole new ball game now than it was years ago. But basically, it's just when authors publish their works without relying on trad publishers. When you do it yourself, that's what we're talking about.
And
Yeah.
we do actually, Jen, you like have your own publishing company under which you publish your books, correct?
Yes, and so does Tina. Yes.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
sort of unofficially do as well. So okay,
Mhm.
that's cool. All
Right.
right. And so this is as opposed to doing something like sending off your manuscript to Random House or Penguin or something
Right.
and then letting them publish the book for you.
And in general, you send it off to an agent, and then they find you a house is generally what
Ah.
happened. And
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
um, and not to be confused with hybrid publishing. Now, we've had this debate before with some of our listeners, and so a hybrid publisher is somebody who is basically you, like somebody like you, somebody who is a self publisher and knows how to do everything themselves, and then they start their own publishing company, and so in essence, they are publishing and doing the work for you. They um some people will consider that a trade publishing deal because they're making money off of your books, but in general with higher publishers you don't get a an advance, which we're going to talk about advances in a little bit here too. So it's a little bit different, so it's not that's not completely self-publishing. And then Jamie alluded to vanity publishing. So here's what vanity publishing is. When someone says to you, your book's so great. We're a publishing house. We want to publish your book. Yay, great. But you have to pay us $5,000, $10,000, $3,000, whatever, and we'll publish your book. That's not a publishing house. That is a vanity publisher. That's somebody who is going to take your money, print a bunch of books, and send them to you. And they're not going to put any of the, you know, powerhouse behind them that like say Tyndale House has or Zondervan has to put
Right.
your books out there. They're not going to promote it. It is a scam 100% of the time. If anybody says, pay me money and I'll publish your book, it is a scam and go run away. That's it.
Yeah, because they're not trying to sell your book to readers. They are
Right.
essentially selling copies of your book to you. And that is not really publishing
Right.
for your
You are
benefit.
their customer, not the reader, and
Mhm.
that is the biggest difference.
Right. And they feast on Christian writers. They do more than any other person out there because maybe we're more trusting, maybe we're more innocent to the ways of the world. I don't know, but there are actually Christian publishing houses out there that are vanity press that
Yeah.
all they're trying to, and they present themselves as a Christian publishing house and run by Christians, but they are scams. And so just
And I think
beware.
part of that might be that a lot of Christians feel that they're writing their book as a calling
Mhm.
and that God is going to help me achieve
It's
my
Ah,
calling. And oh, suddenly this person pops up and they're going to help me get my book published, not realizing that it is a scam and that it's going to cost them a lot of money. And it's really hard to sell physical copies of a book if you are an author who's not known out there in
mhm.
the world.
mm.
And I mean, let's be honest too. There are people. Some people don't even get physical copies. They're getting promised that they're going to be in Christian bookstores and stuff, and they put out $10,000 and for nothing. It's a complete scam
Wow.
because these people really do know um how the right words to say. And so just be aware. If somebody asks you for money, it is for sure a scam. If you're not for certain, come to our Facebook group, message one of us, put it out there, and we will help you figure it out. We promise. For free. We will do that for 100% free because
For
we love
sure we
you.
will. I want to quickly say good morning to Dawn, who's joined us in the live chat. Thanks for that, Dawn, and thanks for your
Good
comment.
morning.
We appreciate all of you with your engagement and encouragement. Okay, so now we've kind of talked about the differences. Why should someone choose independence over traditional publishing?
Well, first of all, if you're like me, you don't like anyone telling you what to do, and you want to do it your way, and you don't care what anyone else says. And
Mhm.
so you have to do it independently because everybody out there wants to tell you how to do it. And I'm not
Mm,
saying that's all. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Somebody tell me how. But I want to learn
mm.
how and then still do it myself. It's just like built into my personality.
Well, that's every decision because I don't think that some people understand what they're, I don't want to say giving up, I guess, whatever. That's what we're talking about. Their right to say, for example, well, I'm not really sure about this cover. Too bad. Too bad because the publisher is going to be like, we are the book selling experts. We know what is going to work and sell. And so we get to decide what the cover of your book looks like. And that's the kind of thing that indies like to control for themselves, for example.
Right.
Oh, Jen,
Exactly.
you're muted.
That's weird. It could all fall underneath the umbrella of creative control. Like
Ah,
you don't want
mhm.
somebody telling you that what your cover is going to look like. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. So I used to be a teacher, and when I was in school to be a teacher, they showed us a video that they did a study with kids with book cover, like books, and they presented books to different classes, the same book to different classrooms. One had the right cover on it that was just very generic or whatever. Another one had a very specific cover with a dog on it. The kids hated the one with the dog on it because as they started reading the book, here's why. The dog was not the right breed.
Right.
And as the kids were reading the book, they were getting angry. The kids with the generic cover were like, fine. Right. So the whole point of the thing as teachers was that, like we talked about, that like kids want genuineness, right? Adults want
Mm,
that.
mm.
And that author of that book, the one that had the generic cover was fake. The one with the wrong dog on it was what the publishing house put out.
Oh,
And
wow.
as I was sitting there in this class, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So you don't have any
Wow.
control over your cover at all, at
Right.
all. If
And if
they
you
put
if
it
you were here a couple weeks ago, my daughter was talking about covers and she said she hates it when the characters on the cover don't match the characters in the book.
everybody does.
Ooh.
I'd rather have
Yeah.
a generic cover that shows me nothing than to have a cover that's incorrect. So, but as a independent publishing house or an independent publisher or an indie author, you have complete control over your not only your cover but the content of the book, the formatting, how it's done, the overall presentation of the book. All of that falls into your lap, and you get to do that. We also, Tina and I talked about in our planning meeting, that wide versus exclusive. That's not something you get to choose. If you are in a market and you realize that all of your competitors are in Kindle Unlimited and you are not, all the readership is in Kindle Unlimited, but your publishing house won't let you put your book in Kindle Unlimited, you're out of luck. You don't have that choice. But as an indie author, I can play around. I can put a book in Kindle Unlimited, try it out for a while, take it out. I can go wide to see if I get better results that way. I can do that market testing with that. And Tina, you brought up cover testing, right? For in the
Yeah, like
market.
if you're 2 years into your book being for sale and you decide you want to try a different cover and see if that works better, you can change your cover as often as you want to if you're an
Mhm.
Hmm.
independent publisher.
And they kind of say you should. For some reason, like you sell more if you change your cover more often, but which
Well, and
seems to,
even like the classics, like
Hmm.
yeah.
what is that Paul Bunyan one? You know what I'm talking about. It's the allegory where the guy's name is Christian.
Mhm.
Oh,
Anyway,
Pilgrim's
Oh,
Progress?
Pilgrim's
yeah.
Progress. Like, you can go back and look at Pilgrim's Progress, even like the Lord of the Rings, and you can see the changes in the cover over the years. They changed the cover based on what's popular with readers at the time.
And I
Okay.
think that that's a as we're starting to talk about wide versus exclusive and making these kinds of changes, this is all pointing to like a flexibility issue and like making these changes when you want to. So like how quickly things get done is completely within your control.
I just wanna show as you guys are saying that, I don't know if anybody's watching, they're probably like, "What is Jen doing?" I'm trying to pull a book off of my shelf over here, and I had them so crammed in there because I have so many books, but I've said before that Jeanette Oak is one of the reasons why I got into Christian romance when I was younger. My
Right.
grandmother, here is the Love Comes Softly. This is the original. This is the one my grandma
Oh,
got.
wow.
Now,
Very 70s.
I treasure that I have the original, and you people will pay extra to get like originals one of all kinds of books. But let's be honest, let's look at this. If you did not know Jeanette Oak and you walked in a bookstore and you saw this cover, would you buy this? You would
It
It
not.
looks
reminds
like
me of
it's
a
for
children's
children.
book.
Yeah.
Right. And then this one came out, I think in the 90s. This cover, the book is older than that, but the cover I believe came out. See, this book was published in copyright 1990. So am I good at this game or what? Um
Mm.
Now a little bit
Oh, yeah, see,
better,
that's a little better, yeah.
but
It kinda looks
still
like your Widows of the West.
a little bit, right? But still not something you would think of as being more modern day, right? So anyway, there's a reason why you want to change your book covers. A little off topic, but I couldn't pass up showing those. So
No, I
But it's a
love
good
it.
example.
mhm. Okay. Uh Purpose Behind the Pen says she loves the original cover. Every book I love the original cover, but only if I love the book first, right? So
Right.
she
But
also
see,
said
your
that she
covers aren't for people that love your book already. Your covers are to attract readers, and you
yes.
want
Ooh,
your cover to attract new readers. And so you need to look at what is popular at that time and what readers are being attracted to when they are looking for the genre book that you've written.
Yes.
lure them with the cover, hook them with the first paragraph.
There we go. Purpose Behind the Pen also says that she hates well, she was talking about the covers not matching up. She said she did not finish so fast due to characters and cover models not matching. Also, we have Abby says, "Good morning. First time listening to the show live. We're glad to have you here,
Good
Abby."
morning.
She also says that she remembers reading books as a kid and the hair of the main character would be wrong on the cover and it really annoyed me. Same. I remember that too.
Yeah,
Like I
yep,
really I like even with this one, I felt like this did not entirely match the how it should have been, but that's a whole nother thing. So anyway,
and those are traditionally published.
yes. Because they didn't have back then, there wasn't really indie publishing. So
Right.
okay. So creative
All right.
control for sure is one of the reasons why you want to do it. Another reason we talked about was flexibility and speed to market.
I could
Tina, do
not
you?
believe when I heard this one woman she's like, "Oh, I got a book deal," and she's going on, and then she's like, "So, like in whatever year it was, 2 years out, she was like, my book will be on the shelves," and I was like, "Are you kidding?
Mhm.
Crazy!"
It's at least 2 years in the process once they accept your book. And a lot of it has to do, and I get it, like they do go through a lot of rounds of editing and book cover, all that kind of stuff. But we do all that too. The problem is that we're not trying to do 100 books at the same time, right? We are
Right.
focusing on our one book. So
Right.
yeah. And plus they
Right.
already have a bunch
So
of books lined up in front of you. Like
I
you're
know
just in
people
line.
that release a book a month, and I know people that release a book a year. And if you're like me, you want to release at least a book a year, and it takes a couple years. But
Mhm.
I'm just keep telling myself I'm so young in the process. This is only my third book that I'm going to get faster as I go, and I'm taking every step as a learning process. And
Mhm.
eventually, I hope to be able to publish 2 books a year.
But you
But
have that flexibility. You get to
I
make
have
that
that
decision.
flexibility. It's my choice, and it's like,
Right.
how much time do I want to spend working on my book? Like, I could sit down and write for 6 hours today, or edit, as the case may be. But my
Mhm.
granddaughters are here, and so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to enjoy them while they're here, and the book will wait for Monday.
Exactly. Agreed. So with the flexibility not only comes from like the speed of when we want to publish, but also once we're published, I mean, I've pulled books down, made corrections and put them back up again
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
and I go through you guys know this. I go through so many rounds of edits and things still come up. But I have traditionally published books that still have mistakes in them. But
Mhm.
as a traditionally published author doesn't have the access to get in and fix that mistake and then republish it, where I, as a indie
No.
author, do. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's funny when you read traditionally published books from way back and then like the new edition will come out and you wonder if that author was just so happy that they could fix whatever that typo
Mhm.
on page 42 that everybody was talking to them about at book signings,
Yeah.
because the publisher gets to decide when those fixes happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um
And one of my chapters in my first book, I had after I'd written the first draft, I had changed the main character's father's name. But
mm,
Mhm.
at the beginning of one chapter, I hadn't caught it, and it had the old name,
mm,
and it was I think it was my narrator that caught it after I had already published the written book. My narrator for the Audible book said, this
Who's
is
this
so I
guy?
yeah, who's Anthony.
Uh-huh.
And so I changed his name to Levi from Anthony. So then I was able to go into, I fixed it in my manuscript, download the new document, go into Amazon and re-upload it and with the name fixed. And from there on out, because they publish on demand, every book published after that
Was correct.
was correct.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
that's awesome. Well,
for
and
that
speaking of
alone, I would be independently published.
Mhm.
Speaking of, permission to make changes and do things, the permission to quote unquote permission to publish in general is
Yeah,
traditionally locked up behind a suite of people who would give you the power or not to be published. And when you're independently published, you decide that you are ready to be a published author and you make it happen.
there are no gatekeepers when you are a published
Mhm.
author. Yep.
And honestly, getting chosen by a publisher to be published really has nothing to do with how well a book is written, but it has to do with what they believe is marketable at the time. And certain publishers really focus on a couple of genres they really like. And if your book is off in some weird genre, they're just probably not going to accept it no matter how well written it is.
And often it's also based on what they've already purchased. If they've already purchased 2 years out worth of Christian romance and they're booked up for it, you could have the best Christian romance book, but they just don't have the budget for it. They don't have the
You
place
can
for it.
prove it. Yeah, you can prove this to yourself right away by just going to Twitter and doing a search for agents and what they're accepting. And you will see
Mhm.
that they all have a particular flavor or style or plot or peculiarity that they are looking for. So it will have nothing to do with your talents as a storyteller or a writer and everything to do with what they believe they can sell. And
Right.
so that's one benefit of being an indie is you can decide, I am going to publish this book and market it.
Right. And then the last reason that we say is a positive for being an indie publisher is probably the one thing that was the biggest motivator for me at the beginning is rights and royalties. Like I
Mhm.
retain all the rights to my books.
Right.
I own the rights forever. And my royalties, I get a higher percentage of royalties off my books than I would if I was traditionally published.
And you get to choose, especially on Amazon, if you keep your book at a certain price point, you get a higher royalty than if you choose a different price point. So
Right.
you get to choose the price points of your books, and you can change that at will whenever you want.
And because we keep our rights, there's a whole new ball game that I haven't even started playing yet, but I am looking at and I'm very interested in. But direct sales. If you're indie author, you can begin to sell your books directly from your website. And there are lots of companies out there now and apps that are making it easier and easier for authors to do that. And I think I'm gonna dip my toes in it here pretty soon so that we can come back and have an episode about it. But direct sales are impossible unless you are any author.
And also, you will never have one of your characters or, one of your intellectual property used to shill products that you possibly don't believe in, don't want anything to do with. So they won't be like, "Hi, I'm Pastor Phoebe Albright, and I would like you to buy this, Honda Forte or whatever, Kia
Does that
Forte."
happen?
Well, I mean, one can dream. Just kidding, but I mean,
Oh.
it could happen. I think of it in the terms of rockers who have their songs selling like Velveeta cheese dip or something, and you're just kind of like, when I composed this epic rock ballad, I didn't think it would be an ode to Velveeta eventually someday.
Right.
And
Gotcha. Yeah.
people won't be using your characters in
Right.
those ways when you retain
We
your
could go on
rights.
a whole tangent about how the music in the 80s was the best because it's just never goes away and it's in every commercial. But that's not what this podcast is about.
All
We're
right,
all
and then
we also were raised in the 80s, so we're a little bit biased.
A little bit.
just a little. Okay, so on the other side of all of these
Mm.
great benefits, there are some downsides, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not all sunshine and puppies and rainbows, right?
Right. So I said the biggest thing that drew me in at first was the fact of the rights and royalties. I got to keep the money. The downside is I got to spend the money. Like
Mm,
everything that needs to be done, I have to pay for or trade it out or something. So, or do it myself. So, like covers, editing, um, everything has to be done myself. But on the flip side of that, still, the days of the big advance where you would just hand your book over and they would give you a big fat check and then they do all the work for you, that those days are gone. People are not getting, I mean, I'm sure Stephen King still gets a big fat, check. Karen Kingsbury probably still gets a decent size, big check. But anyone else, again, go to Twitter and just, or X, whatever, and just search it, and you're gonna find people saying how they're they got a deal, but they don't have an advance, or so the
Or they
you're
have to do their own marketing or, things
everybody
like
has,
that.
yeah, yes, so everybody has to do their own marketing. I mean, the publishing house at best will give you 30 days of pushing your book, and that's it. And we as indie authors know that the life of the book is forever. There are people that publish a book and then it doesn't take off for 10 years when they've published 7 other books after it. So we know that that the marketing should not end at 30 days, but that's what you're going to get at best. And then it's on you. Social media is on you in both ways, but
Social proof.
um
yeah, and I have been guilty of bemoaning, even I think on this podcast, of just like, oh, I just sometimes wish that I could just self-publish, because not only does all of the capital have to come from you, but you have to be your own deadline maker and keeper. You don't
yeah,
have a publisher saying, I need chapter 6 by Friday. You don't have anybody driving you to actually do the work. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm like way off the outline or if that was even included, but you have to be the one to drive the success of your business, and that is not everybody's cup of tea or capability. I
Right.
mean,
And
Tina,
that
you
kind of
kind of hinted to it in the beginning. You said you don't want to listen to anybody. Do you follow your own directions?
that's the problem. That's a problem. I set myself a deadline and I'm sure not to meet it because something inside me rebels against it. So,
mm,
I don't know. I have to work on myself as well as my
yeah,
book. And
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
what Jamie said kind of leads us into our final downside, and there are no gatekeepers.
Right, which was a positive in one way, but in another way,
Right.
it's
So you
also
could
negative.
very possibly put a book out there that's just not right in some way. Um, and not even know it because there's nobody there to tell you, oh, this isn't ready, or this isn't, you shouldn't publish this.
Because let's be
Hmm.
honest, we can say that the gatekeepers might be keeping good books out there because they're already full, or they're looking for another kind of genre, so that they're turning down perfectly good books. But we also have to admit that the gatekeepers also have a lot more um, data than we do. And so there might be reasons why they wouldn't accept your book, So, but
Hmm.
in indie publishing, you just put it out there. But again, there's good and there's bad to that. Like sometimes you just got to put a book out there and realize, oh, that wasn't good. right? Like, that's how you find
Mhm.
out is when either it's a total flop or you get really bad
Or
reviews.
you get peers that you respect, and you can trust them to tell you the truth, and you get them to
Yes,
read your book before you put it out there, and you can create your own gatekeepers.
that is exactly
Well,
what we
and
suggest.
if you're at all serious about working on your actual craft, you're going to look back at your earlier work and think it could be better because you're going to become a better writer.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's that also. But to the
Yeah.
point of no gatekeepers, I mean, I think one of the biggest prejudices or when you walk up to somebody and you say, I'm independently published, like people don't want to say even self published. Why? Because immediately there's this negative association of like, so much garbage that is out there. And when I say garbage, I mean, I'm going to pick something that I hope nobody would ever do, like half copied, plagiarized work slapped together with whatever a cover put on it and it thrown out there because somebody told them that they could make passive income by publishing books. And then you get it and you realize there's nothing of value to it. It's poorly written. It's full of grammatical errors, et cetera, et cetera. And people are insistent that that's because just anybody can publish. And so
Right.
you are sometimes unfairly categorized with people who do things like that. And because there is so much garbage out there that is independently published, you unfortunately have to take that stigma. That's the word I was looking for, along with the territory.
Right.
Right.
Kathy says having a trusted team or community helps us put out better books. Absolutely agree.
For
100%.
sure.
And if you don't have that community, please come join our Facebook group. Please come join our live chat. Like that's the whole reason why we're doing this is because when we started out,
Mm-hmm.
we did not have community until we met each other. And then we became each other's community. And if we would have had something like this, it would have been so much more helpful to us in those early days. So
Right.
find your community.
And if you will need more than that, we have a writing room on our Patreon. For $5 a month, you can come into the writing room with other writers. We have a live Q&A where you can just come on and ask us anything. So it's available to you if you want it.
And the Q&A is this coming Sunday, correct?
Yes, it
So
is.
there's still time to join and be part of that Q&A.
Super fun.
All
All
righty.
right. So we've covered the ups and downs of independent publishing. And if you have more questions about that or want to keep the conversation going, of course, listeners of the Christian Indie Writers podcast is our Facebook group, and we want you to come on over there. Did we cover it all, ladies? Any last words, or we're moving on?
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, goody. Time for my favorite part of Friday, which is the feeding of the backs. What is this? This is giving each other feedback on our sprints. What sprints? Well, every week we assign a writing sprint prompt, and we encourage you to set a timer for 15 minutes and just write with abandon. And that is what we do before the show goes live. And then we take those sprints and we read them to you without looking at them again and editing and trying to make fixes. And so we keep this feedback session positive feedback only for that reason, because this is not a polished piece of work. We're going to be very gentle with each other about it. So this week, Jen, what was our prompt and what did you write?
So we were 5 words because it was the first Friday. So Bible, publisher, laundry, dealer, and conflict. And I do not like what I wrote, but it's fine. I
No.
started liking it. I need another like 5-10 minutes, but it took me forever to get started. So I'm back in Widows of the West book 2. Loretta hung the last piece of laundry in the line, her dry, cracked hands protesting every last movement. Between the harsh lye soap and the sun baking her skin in the process, she barely recognized her own hands anymore. Gone were the delicate nails her mother had taught her to maintain. Gone was the subtle skin, the supple, I think is what I meant to say, not subtle. It's a sprint that used to adorn her fingers that spent the day laced and demurely resting in her lap while gentlemen came calling. Now she was left with a leathery substitute that looked more like the saddlebag that hung from the ranch hands' horses than the Southern belles, and I couldn't come up with a word there, so I just put a bunch of X's. But to her surprise, Loretta didn't mind. Well, she minded the pain. She didn't think she would ever get used to the feeling of lies seeping into the cracks. but there was a certain freedom in knowing that you were doing your own chores, that you were good at something other than looking pretty, and that you weren't reliant on other people to live your life. Because in Loretta's mind, that wasn't living at all. You best take care of that before it gets infected. Loretta nearly jumped out of her skin at the sound of Shane's voice so near. Mercy, sir, you do know how to startle a person. Shane didn't say a word, just reached into the bag hanging from his horse and pulled out a jar of some sort. He held it out to 3, 2, 1.
Why do you not like this?
I don't know. Maybe because I was trying to rush to get to a point where I would have I probably would have just rather like kind of settled into the imagery for a bit and really let us be in her mind for a little bit. But it was a sprint and I was trying to get to somewhere. I only used one word, so I don't know why I was trying to get somewhere.
And this is one of the things where I feel sometimes us ladies who then are sharing these publicly handicap ourselves. And I don't want our listeners to do that if they are going to take the opportunity to sprint. Also, if the timer is going to make you feel like you've got to get somewhere, you've got to do something. Because Jen, I loved everything. Sorry, I'm not trying to be critical, but what I'm saying is like I hate that you're disappointed with it and that the reasons could be solved by just you being able to linger, you being able to not feel like you've got to get somewhere. Because the way you described her feeling of, I don't care about my cracked hands because I feel this way about my independence, really. I mean, just that was so great. It was really great. And if you discovered that through this sprint, mission accomplished.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I love how you incorporated independence into your sprint when we're celebrating independence on the podcast today. I don't know if you even realized you did that.
I didn't realize that.
But I really like this character.
Yeah.
And the fact that she came from a society and a culture that really did handicap her in a lot of ways. It handicapped her as a woman by pigeonholing her into this place where she has to be pretty and attract a man and have the right husband. And it pigeonholed her into beliefs about other races and like just so many things that she's now going to have this journey that she's going to find freedom from. And I'm really excited for this character.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping to write her in a way that you hate her, then love her, and then root for her. It's kind of how I feel about her. So, yeah, on a journey with this one. So,
did the sprint do anything for you as far as reveal anything or?
I mean, a little bit. It's going to give me a way for him to like touch her, like, you know what I mean, like not in a
salve in her hands.
Yeah. So just a little bit of like, because they hate each other. So a way like a physical contact of some sort for the beginning. It's going to give us. I think this is maybe going to be the first time that we see inside of her in a way that we like, kind of like her, where otherwise we like because she's not a likable person at first, like, because she's got so many walls up and she's got so many prejudices that's what we're going to see at first is like her being very haughty and all the prejudice and stuff. So I think that this, like, I like to give just little bits. Like, you don't want to just all of a sudden give the whole backstory and then like we're supposed to like, you just want like little bits. So this is going to be probably a little bit, but we'll see.
All right. Well, we got some listener praise for you. Shell says she agrees with Jamie. Wow, that's awesome. And she loves the very clear imagery.
Thank you.
But yes, the imagery is great for sure. Abby says that she loves the dichotomy where she's used to keeping her hands pretty for a man, then gets startled by a man while getting her hands rough and dirty. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I also think I want to do that a little bit slower than the way I did it. So I kind of know what I want to do with that. Not him just all of a sudden like being I do like the startled, but yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm sprinting. We'll find out later what happens. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll go next. I waved at the prompt on the way by. I think I got one word. Yay me. All right.
Congratulations. That's good for you.
For me.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
That's a change there.
Oh gosh. All right. Oh, and by the way, if you want to watch me write this, go to our YouTube channel. I stream to the YouTube channel when I do my sprint. So here we go. That was the most cringe inducing thing I have ever been forced to sit through, Thomas said, throwing the ingredients for a salad from the open fridge onto the kitchen island. I've never quite heard a funeral described in that way, Marjorie said, patting the baby on her bottom as she rocked on her heels on the other side of the room. You would have to have seen it to believe it, Thomas continued, opening a jar of mayo and moving its contents to a bowl with a silicone spatula. You remember my Aunt Mary? Of course. How could I forget her? Aunt Mary had shown up to Marjorie's wedding wearing a white dress, complete with a bustle and parasol. Well, she showed up in red today. She didn't. She did long, draping folds of velour. And in her dotage, she decided to wear enough makeup to cover the faces of half a dozen drag queens. Wow. There were several moments of silence as Thomas sprinkled spices, garlic, and herbs into the bowl. He plucked a wire whisk from the nearby utensil basket and gestured with it as he continued his story. So in walks Lucifer's maiden. All our conservative aunties clutch their pearls. The priest clutches his Bible. Thomas laughed. That was the best part, watching Aunt Mary exchange pleasantries with him. I could tell he was just wishing for a giant hole to open up beneath him and swallow him up. Thomas pulled down the big salad bowl. He tore lettuce into fragments and threw them into it. I can chop these, Marjorie said, pulling the cucumber and tomato to the other side of the island and producing a cutting board from a drawer. You sure? Thomas gestured to indicate the baby strapped to Marjorie's chest. That's the whole point of wearing her, so that I can get some stuff done while she naps? That thing is awesome. I'm going to remember for when I have kids. You'd better check with Linda first. What do you mean? Marjorie finished chopping the cucumber before she responded. I guess the best way to say it is, I'm not sure Linda is the baby wearing type. Why do you say that? Oh, come on, Thomas. She's rather prim. Yeah, but I'm sure having a baby will break down some of those walls. If you say so. Marjorie started in on the tomato. So Aunt Mary, she prompted. It was the worst. They asked if anyone wanted to say anything, something they should have reconsidered when Mary showed up, if you ask me. She, of course, volunteered, and 3 words or so into her speech, flung herself onto the casket and wailed, just wailed. I half wondered if the sound of it wouldn't reanimate the poor old gent. And then time is up.
Jamie, I think you know how I feel about it because I could not stop laughing while you were reading it. Oh my gosh. I like Aunt Marjorie. I want her to come to my funeral.
Jamie, I want you to dress as her and come to my funeral.
Yes, if you don't come in a red velour dress to our funerals, we're gonna come back and haunt you. No,
oh man.
No, I loved it. This is not a finished piece.
No.
Am I correct? Yeah. Because you threw in some more information there. Like we were all laughing about Aunt Marjorie, but then you threw in the whole like this prim person who's not a baby wearer. Like I want so where's that going? Where's that part of that story going? And so yeah, really well done, Jamie. But well crafted.
And how's she gonna fit into this family of crazy people?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's all good. All good praise. I love it. Great characters.
Yeah. When you guys say that, it makes me wonder how she would have reacted if she were there, and like why wasn't she there? Like these are questions that I now would like to answer.
Right.
Abby says, I never thought I would hear cringe and funeral in the same sentence. Well, Jamie Hirschberger. Shell says, so fun, Jamie. Always such great characters in your pieces.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well done.
I love Friday.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for your encouragement. It felt good to write. I was feeling a little rusty. Tina, what did you produce with this?
I have no idea what this is, but it is
something.
There, even if I didn't actually get some of the words, I got the meaning of them in there. So here we go.
There you go.
Are you serious? Do you really need to put a copyright into your book if you quote the Bible? How can Zoundervan own the copyright of the Bible? I found the elusive match to that one sock that had been lonely way too long and folded them together, smiling at my victory while Sheila explained the whole Bible copyright issue over the speaker of I'm sorry, I can't see, of my cell, which sat propped up in a candy dish on the coffee table between the towels and the undergarments. I wasn't really listening, and I felt a twinge of guilt about that, but I know Sheila was just really needed someone to talk to. She'd been struggling since her husband passed a couple years ago, and her kids were so busy with their own lives and schedules and kids' sports. It made me sad for her. I couldn't imagine going more than a couple weeks not seeing my grandkids. I put all of
Mm,
my folded laundry back into the hamper and carried it all with one hand and my phone with the other. First stop, the bathroom. I stacked the towels according to color in the linen closet, then moved into my bedroom. Sheila was talking about her granddaughter now. They invited her to try out for the Olympic team. It's such a great honor, and she's such a good gymnast, especially on the beam and the vault. I just know she'll make it. She's been practicing day and night, though. Worried she's not good enough. Wait, Susie? She's the one trying out? Yes, Susie, I'm so happy and proud of her. But the words coming through the speaker didn't match the tone I heard in her voice, the
mm,
tone of tears being held back, lest they fall and you lose your composure. Isn't she coming to see you next week? Well, Sheila hesitated.
mm,
The thing is, she really needs to prepare. She's only got a few months, and that wouldn't be possible here. I know she really wanted to come, but there'll be another time. I thought of suggesting Sheila go see her, but then thought better of it. Susie would probably be too busy to spend any time with her, and that would be even more hurtful. I'm going to a women's retreat next week, I told her. You should come with me. There's an extra spot in my room. Oh, I wouldn't want to impose, Sheila said, but I heard the hope in her voice. Of course you wouldn't be imposing. You would fit right in with all the ladies, and someone's coming to give us all mani-pedis, and there's a pool and a hot tub. It's going to be a week of relaxing and pampering. Please come. I know you'll have a great time. I heard the smile in her reply. Okay, I'll do it. It's time I had some me girl time. Should we ride together? I would love that, I said as I put the last pair of socks into the dresser drawer. 3, 2, 1.
Yay, I really liked it.
made me sad though. Like, aw. She just wants Susie to come for a visit. Like, can't you
Yeah.
just come for a little visit, Susie?
Just do
Which
your tumbling in the backyard. Like, what
but but honestly, like that like shows that my reaction shows that like you made the character real to me. And I
Yeah.
just love that. So, yeah, really well done, Tina.
Yeah, she is real. She's like several people that I know, all kind of wrapped into one person.
Mm,
Where
yeah.
they're, like my daughter is like always at my house with my granddaughter, and I just can't imagine it being any other way. And then I have friends who never see their kids and never see their grandkids because they're so busy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
Purpose
just
behind the pen agrees. She says it was so well written.
thanks.
Yeah,
mhm,
and just the little details of smiling over the victory of matching the sock, I think, are what
mm,
helps it to
yeah.
just seem like these are real people and not just flat one-dimensional characters. It was really good.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree. That line is very good, and it very much, cements it in your mind that this is real. This isn't I'm not something fake
Mhm.
someone wrote, like, this is actually happening in my head, you know?
Mhm, for sure.
Thanks.
Shell says, "Sad, but ended with some sweet encouragement. Liked the line about holding your composure until the tears actually fall. I know that feeling." I think we all
Yeah.
do,
Mhm.
Shell. Yeah. Well
Yeah.
done, Tina.
Very
Thanks.
well done. All right. Well, we have to move on to the final segment before I disappear in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
This is the what's next. So we want to know what's next for you, ladies, and what we can plan on hearing in your what's up next week. What's next for you, Jen?
Oh, golly. I'm still trudging through back of the book stuff, and I just really gotta, like, hunker down and just do it. I need to get rested. I need to get some sleep. I feel like I need sleep. But yeah, I'm still working on the back of the book stuff. So that's what's next for me. What about you,
All
Jamie?
right. I'll be praying for you, first of all.
Thank
And
you.
then you're welcome. Second of all, we've been talking about finding writers community, and I've been toying with the idea of opening up my, what do you call it? Not alone time, like my extra time to be a support and encouragement for independent authors in a totally different way. I like to call it like feeding your back. So, you know how we always give each other positive encouragement, feedback. I would like to offer to give that to some of our writers. And we've been talking about a way to coordinate that with our Patreon levels to where we might have, if you're a subscriber at a certain level, you can have a half an hour of my attention, encouragement, and support for your writing and your writing career. It would be all about you, a private writing group that's all about you and what you have going on. And I would be your little cheerleader. So I'm going to be working with the ladies to figure out what price tier and things like that to request from folks who would like to have that. And if you're interested in such a thing, let us know, because some of our tiers, we're not sure if they would be of perceived value. So let us know on our Facebook group. But that's the mission, to get that ready for a launch within the month. How about you, Tina?
Well, I'm this afternoon after my girls all leave, I'm going to do the Welcome to July post for the Patreon, and I still have to schedule the Bible study, and so I'm going to send out a poll for you, those of you in there. I just ask you to look for it. I want to see who's interested in coming to the Bible study, and try to get a time and date that was going to work for everybody, so that people can come. And also, I've been in the writing room every day from 8 to 10. So if you need somebody to write with, come on in there. And that's about it. And I'm
Awesome.
working on my red light fixes on my revision. So
Awesome. Abby says that she's in the race to finish her first draft by the end of September, and she's currently on chapter 4. So to pray for her. We will, Abby. Good
I
luck.
love that little monkey.
go hang out with Purpose behind the pen. Maybe you could
Yeah.
Maybe it'll rub off.
catch some of her speed.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was a really entertaining and fun time to spend with you ladies. I'm so happy when I can join you.
We're happy when you're here too.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And it's so good to see everybody in the chat. It's really good to reconnect. But for this week, we're going to sign off. So until the next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.